Welcome back to the Unofficial Shopify Podcast, my friends. I'm your host, Kurt Elster.
Jack Nasty.
And today's episode is all about creating a one-of-a-kind product and taking a risk to pursue your passion. These are the best episodes. I love these. Our guest today is Dylan Menter, founder of Bare Balanced and the mastermind behind the world's creatine gummy. I don't know if that claim is true, but we're going to press him on it. Dylan's going to share with us his journey from quitting SpaceX to creating a product that challenges both physical and mental endurance, and how he took it from ideation to the hands his customers. Dylan, welcome. How you doing?
Thank you for having me on. A long-time listener, first-time caller, big fan of the show. Pivotal and critical in my success earlier on as an entrepreneur online.
I'm honored. I don't know what to say, and I don't have a good sound effect for that.
I think that's the one. I don't know what to say. I think you need to record that and put it down.
There's too much. If I have sound clips of myself, that's like just Inception. It's too weird. You can argue with myself.
I agree.
All right, so I caught in there. You used to work at SpaceX, as in like Elon Musk's rocket company.
Once upon a time, that was the gig.
This seems like a good gig, or at least a dream gig for a lot of people. What's your background?
So military, worked on circuit cards, pretty boring in the Marine Corps. It was still very much a Marine Corps enlistment, but I was sitting there troubleshooting circuits more or less for 4 years. Got out, decided I was going to sort of either continue in that direction or do something slightly different, but not too far off, because I did have about 4 years of OJT and education under my belt. So biggest goal I could set was to sort of, up the ante and take the technician to an engineering position. And I wanted to do this in aerospace field. So it was NASA or SpaceX. And I got a call one day from a military recruiter and said, hey, there's a SpaceX recruiting event happening 2 days from now. Can you make it in LA? And at the time I lived in San Diego. I didn't even think about the logistics. I just said yes and hung up the phone and started driving. I got a haircut and I hit the road and I bought a better set of clothing for the hiring event, thinking everyone was going to be very business formal, which was not so much the case. But yeah, it sort of all just took on a life of its own after that.
How long ago was this?
This was in 2017 in March.
Not that long ago, 6 years. And today sell creatine gummies.
Correct.
What is a creatine gummy?
So I'm the founder and CEO of Bare Balanced, and we created the world's first creatine gummy. The creatine, for those who are less familiar with it, because creatine is pretty esoteric. A lot of the PhDs and maybe more fitness enthused individuals are the only ones who really know about creatine, which is what they refer to as a super supplement. It's got its a very, very strong, science backing in exercise performance, cognitive performance and brain health. It can help with things like sarcopenia, age-related brain degenerative things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. It's got a very wide range of benefits that more or less just keep our bodies, the way that we like them, healthy and young. The gummy aspect of the product is something I have iterated on more times than I'd like to admit. It started off as a gelatin gummy in the kitchen, when I was still working at SpaceX, and it has evolved very much over the last 3 years of business. We're now using a all-natural, sugar-free ingredient, pectin-based gummy. We've partnered with CreaPure. That's the purest, highest-grade creatine on the planet. The only elite-level creatine on the market. This is the stuff that Olympians, elite-level CrossFitters, they're most familiar with. So this gummy in itself, it's a confectionery masterpiece. I've myself poured over 5 million gummies by hand when we were making them in-house. I can really speak to the quality of the product from the confectionery side of things. And I'm someone that endorses the product because I know it works. I was taking creatine for a decade before I started making the gummies. And when I transitioned from the raw powder form to the gummy, we've added some additional active ingredients that sort of help maximize the traditional benefits. I not only noticed, there was no decline in any way, shape, or form, an increase in performance. And I don't know if that's a placebo effect or not, but I'm happy with it. And I'm happy to share that with our customers.
You personally are all in on creatine. Creatine, popular dietary supplement, famous for effects on athletic performance in regards to like muscle strength, power, size, volume. And then interestingly, it also assists with recovery. And there are studies that suggest this has neuroprotective effects. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm sold on the benefits of creatine here. Why do we want it as a gummy? Like, I get a gummy's convenient as opposed to like, trying to mix powder.
So there is the form factor, the vehicle. So the powder by itself, it has a pretty high uptake rate as it moves throughout the body and it gets digested. Your GI really does a good job of taking it in and making the most of it. Some of the studies out there, they conclude, and I believe this to be true as well, because there's definitely more than one. For reference, there are over 500 studies on the efficacy of creatine and its benefits out there for anyone interested in following up after hearing this. But the additional, sugars, sugar alcohols, carbs of any sort, that stuff helps drive nutrients into the muscle. It helps drive creatine throughout the body and assists and facilitates with uptake. You can see there's some guys that drink whole glasses of OJ, or they're pounding fruit punch during workouts. There's also a lot of carb or simple sugar alternatives out there that are made by supplement brands that sort of assist in this too, and those will have simple carbs in them. It's all it's the same at the end of the day. It's that we're trying to spike the insulin, we're trying to drive nutrients into the muscle, we're trying to help with the uptake of minerals and nutrients that we're putting in our bodies, and that includes things like creatine gummies or just creatine when you're taking that.
And so creatine, readily available, been available many years. What inspires you to say, hey, what's on the market's not good enough? I need to make my own creatine supplement, and also to make things really tough, it needs to be a gummy.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've got a lot of people that bend my ear, in the fitness industry, whether they be, whether they were Marines at the time, whether they were the group of guys I was working out with at SpaceX that took bodybuilding seriously, or the guys I met at the gym that were actively competing. There was a common theme amongst the majority of these people, is the inconvenience of powdered supplements. And this was when gummies had already started to sort of trend. Goalie was making its way into the market, and I think that really solidified what now is a real prominent industry in the sports supplementation space, the sustainable supplements, the sports nutrition, the functional foods. Gummies are sort of at the front of that. And earlier on, I call it foresight, call it intuition. I kind of thought to myself, this is where supplementation is going. And after having so many conversations with these bodybuilders, these guys that were just a little overly vocal about how much they were displeased with the powdered supplement forms, I put the two together. And I've always been very entrepreneurial since an early age, always wanted to start a business as an adult. I honestly think that I'm a little too optimistic and delusional at times, but we know those are good traits of entrepreneurship, and we know that those people can change the world. So I decided to take it on, try it out in the kitchen. And sure enough, once I found out I could make it, I did some due diligence into the background of, the actual fitness industry, the supplement companies, and realized no one else was doing this. So it was really a golden opportunity that, it's something I always wanted to do, something I realized could be capitalized on, and I just got to work.
So you're plugged into this community through friends, acquaintances, and realized like, hey, we're all using creatine and other supplements, but the big pain here is tubs and bags of powder. And like, it's frustrating and annoying, and pretty soon everything is covered in powder. And the gummies solve for that problem, and like give you more, in theory, right? If it's done right, gives you more consistent dosing. Mm-hmm. They're convenient. They're not messy. I get it. And so you're like, wait a second. I can put these two together. You claim to be the first. How do we just start Googling it? How do we figure that out?
Yeah. I mean, I think everything starts, all validations or good due diligence starts with a solid hour of Googling. I made my way to, I think maybe the 8th page before I gave up the first time. And okay. I did see that there were some other confectionery products that were made over the last, I think since 1996, there's been 2 companies that did something along the lines of a confectionery. We have one in 1996 that it was almost a chew. And I have to go back and look at this. However, there is a very, very clear differentiator between gummy products, taffies, things like Nerd Ropes in the confectionery space. And that's based off the amount of types of sugars, amounts of sugars, water percentages. I'm kind of familiar with a lot of this stuff and won't do too much of a deep dive, but the only other company did make a chew, and that was GNC. So it was like a Starburst candy, more or less. So we've got those 2 gummy products since 1996. I couldn't find anything else. I looked at the patents. I got on USPTO. I did as much background searching as I could, even internationally. I even hopped on Alibaba because you know that if it's out there, you can get it on Alibaba. And it was
That's a good
not.
point.
It was
did not
not
occur to me. That's
yeah.
Wait, do they sell supplements and just like straight up here's powders on Alibaba?
I mean, they'll sell you anything. We've got a couple competitors, and I won't say names, that actually get their products from Alibaba. And I know for a fact that they tried to rip us off or duplicate, or reverse engineer. But as someone who knows how to make the product and knowing what these competitors sell, I can tell you firsthand that it's not what we have in our product, or it's not what we have in our packaging.
I bought a lot of goofy, inexpensive stuff off like AliExpress and THK over the pandemic with varying levels of success. And there is no universe in which I would buy supplements and try that out. Like, I'm not going to be the guinea pig here.
Yeah, no, I feel bad. I really do. And I have a lot. I'm focused on very few things, but I like to channel the focus, do good at those very few things that I have to really, put my energy and time into, to go out of my way and try to educate others on the non-efficacious supplements that may be out there. It's really just, it's one man against the world. And I hate to say it, but, a lot of supplements, they come from Alibaba. And there's a lot of supplement brands on Amazon right now. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of brands popping up. And a lot of these are being made in these same factories, and the efficacy is not there. If these products were tested, they probably, if they published these tests, they'd have very few people making their way through checkout. But I know that the FDA most recently, they published something that is going to, the FDA and the FTC they're even working with Amazon to sort of help get all of those efficacious products off of Amazon. And it's going to be tough because it's the first time they've made any move in this direction in over, I think, 10 years. But we as a consumer conscious people that we are nowadays, the right groups are taking the right actions to kind of make sure that these things don't thrive as much as they have recently in the future.
Phrase non-efficacious is quite the euphemism for snake oil.
110%. And that's probably, snake oil is probably that's the colloquial used throughout the fitness industry for products that are just, they don't belong in, they might be in your house, but they shouldn't be in your cupboards. They should be under the sink and with the bag in it.
So, all right. So I accept that you are the first here, and we sometimes refer to first mover advantage, but at the same time, sometimes being the first means there's a reason no one else tried. So are advantages or disadvantages to being the first mover here?
It was, I'd like to say it's 60-40, 40-60, and that goes in both directions. I filed the patent before we even started making the product, because what's more important than producing the product is protecting it. And we made sure to, file the provisional day one. Going into it, we knew, this is going to be tough. No one's done it. There's no information. There's no roadmap. The confectionery trade, it's not this, there's not a cookbook or there's not a really solid source of information on how to do this. It's a very well protected trade secret or proprietary type of creation that these companies or these manufacturers make. So it was a disadvantage at first. I will be completely transparent, especially as someone who has very little skill cooking something other than steak or chicken at the time. Learning how to make gummies was an entirely different skill set that I didn't think I needed to learn. But being a little overconfident and being optimistic and delusional at the same time, I spent an entire year learning how to make gummies. And I did this with the help of edible chemists, actual experts in the confectionery field, people that worked for some of the bigger brands out there. And it was the pandemic. So people were they were online, they were engaged, they were trying to create content. I think a lot of these individuals that I ended up working with, they thought that maybe this would be something they'd talk about on their YouTube channel, or, there was some trade-off in working with me, excuse me. Lo and behold, they were just doing it out of the love for the trade. They wanted to share knowledge. They wanted to educate. These guys, they have a very, very, they have a well of depth when it comes to, and having someone like me reach out saying, hey, I want to do something different. I really want to make something great here. Can you help me? They were very, very, ready to jump on board. But I also, I had a lot of people in my ear, and I had a lot of different sectors of the trade that differentiated in one way or another. So we've got CBD, THC, pure sugar, more candy type products. I had experts from all fields. So I really had to cherry pick what would be used in my own experiments. So it did take an entire year before I finally settled on a product that I thought was really going to make change and really going to convert at checkout. Just based off the pure experience. It's experiential trying our gummies. It's not just a wonderful supplement. The gummy itself is a work of art. When you see it for the first time, you wonder, and I'm sure it crosses a lot of people's minds, is this the best gummy I'm ever going to eat? Because it sure as heck looks like it. That goes.
No way. No way. It's a gummy. I've never unpackaged like a Snickers bar and been like, is this the greatest Snickers bar I'm ever about to eat? Maybe I have done that. Now that as the words came out of my mouth, I was like, okay, maybe.
Every time I open a Snickers, that happens. So I have to disagree with you. But I am, the optimism and the delusional Dylan, I'm sure there's some of that baked into that, that statement. But in all seriousness, we done everything we could to make it the best, aesthetically pleasing gummy. I mean, the mold itself took a lot of work, a lot of iterations. We were a gummy bear. We were just an average gummy bear. We actually had to outsource and get some molds made back when I really didn't have the money to just make it more appealing. We used certain organic materials that enabled us to not only make the label claims that are more consumer friendly, but it took a lot of testing to get colors that actually worked, because under heat a lot of things break down, and you don't get a beautiful product at the end of the day. I mean, when I looked at these, it literally looked like almost jewelry. That's when I knew this is the final version 1.0 of the product. The path it took to get there was a long and hard, and I don't think I could do it again. You can only put so much. You've only got so many shots like that you can take. I think I might be able to. I don't think I'd be able to do it from square one ever again.
I'm looking at the gummy now, and you're right. It's very good looking color, and it's got kind of like a clover shape to it.
The triple Venn diagram.
Oh, you're right. That is what it is.
Oh yeah, there's reason for that too.
So when you reach out to these people to get their assistance, what does that pitch look like? Because I'm sure that was a unsung part of your success here, is that like initial cold outreach pitch to people you're trying to get to help you. Absolutely.
And you don't want to come off, you want to provide value, right? When you're reaching out, you want to be personable, and you want to communicate that, hey, I am asking you for mentorship or help, because I do want to make this product, and dangling association with the name of the person that helped, to sort of provide influence that got me through R&D. Like, I made it a point to just be upfront with everyone, and let them know, one, I've gone through some of your work. I watched some of your YouTube videos. I've read some of these people have actual confectionery R&D that's published. Like, I've read your work. I've seen your YouTube stuff. I know that you're really good at your job. I know that you're going to be beneficial if you allow yourself to, in order for me to do something equally as cool and equally as elevated in the confectionery trade. And there's sort of that trade-off where they get to be a part of it. Then you let them know ahead of time that, I need help. I want your help because you're awesome at what you do, and I want to make an awesome product. And a lot of people, they're excited by that. They want to help. They want to educate. They want to, they want the cool side quest. And I think that's what really allowed for, the possibility of me working with these experts and these individuals is someone who had no say so in the field. I'd made gelatin gummies once, and I was like, okay, we're switching to pectin based. It's officially chemistry. I need some help. So, I had no grounds to do so, but they were more than willing to. And I think it's because of, there was that trade-off there, and they wanted to do something.
And so you were able to get these people excited about your vision and happy to help. And that helped with like product development, manufacturing, ingredients as well, like sourcing the correct formula here.
Absolutely. It's at the end of the day, there's a million different types of sugars out there. There's a million different percentages at which, or heats you should cook them at. Everyone has their own, professional opinion on how it should be done. So you really you take in as much information as you go wide, and you narrow it down. You have to make a real fair balance specific at the end of the day. And I think that's why it took an entire year, taking in so much information. You take the scientific approach and the scientific method, and you ask the question and you ask it again, and you get your answer, you iterate, you ask again. And it could have taken longer if I had let it, believe me. And at the end of the day, you're never, it's your baby. So you're never truly done iterating on it. I don't think our product it's not, done being iterated on. We'll find a way to make it better. And once we do that, we'll do it again.
So once so it took you a year to develop this. What were some of the challenges that you dealt with?
Time. And I think the endurance to kind of get through it, because I'd spent so much money on ingredients and, so much time outside of work while I was still pursuing, a master's in education. It's really like, do you want to sleep or do you want to figure out this, this entrepreneurial thing of yours? And the time it took to dedicate, in order to sort of allow myself to fail and keep failing and keep failing and keep failing and having minor successes and building off of that. And then only to fail, 100 more times. That was sort of where I was at.
The changing gears a little bit, it's hard to name a brand, especially a consumer packaged good. How'd you come up with the name Bare Balanced?
Interesting enough, I had multiple names. I think of Bare Strength Supplements. That was the first one because we thought we were going to start with the creatine gummy and we want to leave room for expansion. We don't want to pigeonhole ourselves. So at least if we use the word bare, it's broad enough to, branch off into other gummy bear products. Bare Balanced sort of catered to what now is the triple Venn diagram gummy shape. The balance being, we know that creatine, it helps with fitness. We know it helps with, general health. And we know that trickles into wellness and well-being. Having those two boxes checked and those two categories or areas satisfied, you're better off from a well-being aspect. Sort of is what defines that. The bear, we've segued out of bears. We transitioned from the bear, but it's our roots. It's our foundation. It's what started this company. It's more or less speaks to the authenticity and us as a brand. So that is there to stay. We could have rebranded the name when we changed the gummy, and we thought it would be, we'd be cheating ourselves if we did that. We put so much into Bare Balance.
Did you have any issues with IP? Creatine gummies, I said registered trademark. So any issues there with?
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh no. I mean, I say it as if I barged into the office myself and sort of threw a fit. But no, I think just as someone with no background, in IP law or just even getting IP published, and as someone that really couldn't afford the attorneys that it would take to file everything, and I kind of need to preface it by saying you should learn how to do as much as you can by yourself. It's great to, well, not everything, but the 10%. If you can learn 100% of something and it's not going to take away from the other stuff you have going on, by all means. I also wanted to publish the first bits of IP. Little did I know that, things other than the brand name are a little harder to do. When we initially filed for a series of IP, because again, the business, the industry, no one was in the space. No one was doing anything with the product, with the IP. We, just like we filed the patents, we were like, we need to protect the product. So we'll go out and file the IP that we need to associate with the brand. And when we went for creatine gummies, the product itself, if you see the bag, you see the gummies, you see it on a shelf, that is creatine gummies. The term applies to the product, not the individual gummies themselves. And this is something that interviewed a little bit of research, a little bit of background here. I think their name is Pickle Power. This is another company. They sell pickle juice. It's international product. It does very well. They were the first pickle juice product. They created their category very similar to how we created ours. And they took the same approach. You can formed IP around their product. And when other brands came into the space, it made them very difficult to use certain marketing material and advertise as such, and actually sort of cemented them as a globally recognized brand. So that's what we intended on doing, having that sort of, the luck of having a conversation with Pickle Power earlier on. They sort of helped facilitate that, that general, or that initial thought to go out and do that. But it was, there's a lot of back and forth. And to be honest, I think I've probably spoke to that examiner maybe 100 times before we've really figured it out. But they're willing to help. Everyone at the USPTO is not a bad guy. They're not trying to slam the door in your face, but there's definitely rules and regulations around certain IP. And I think everyone, me wanting to learn it 100% needs to sort of do their own due diligence and background searching into that sort of stuff, or hire someone that really knows what they're doing, because some of that stuff can, there's a lot of mixed signals and wires that get crossed.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that dealing with USPTO is not for me.
Me neither.
Seems frightening.
Yeah.
It's intense.
And it's a long battle. Some IP can take about a year to get published, just if it goes the right way. So, you can really, really extend that length of time.
So when you've got the product, you've got the IP, now you have to secure an audience for the first time. You got to sell to somebody. That's the hard part. Like, you developed a product? That sounds difficult. Not as difficult as selling it for the first time. So how did that go?
Phenomenal question. I've been selling things as a kid. I sold a ton of stuff. I didn't sell the kitchen sink. I didn't sell my mom's TV, but anything that wasn't nailed down, they used to joke around and say, he'll sell it. I've always sort of had this inclination to just appease people and cater to wants and needs, as opposed to being real salesy. The first thing we had to do is, and we got this question asked so many times earlier on, was, who are you selling this to? Who is your audience? And no one could understand the answer to this question. We'd say it was any and everyone. And we truly meant that, because creatine is proven to enhance, or the studies are concluded to show efficacy in the broadest spectrum of spectrums. And that's everywhere from adolescents to senior citizens. So it's literally everyone across the board. So we say, like, who would take it? Anyone that takes a vitamin. Who takes vitamins? Anybody, every and anybody. So going out and finding any and everybody, it's a big bucket. We leaned into the path less traveled. We took creatine and decided to lead with more of a wellness front. And we made it, the opposite of the traditional age-old sort of vibe or stigmatized fitness, jacked guy in the little tank tops. And, we didn't want it to be associated with how I think the bodybuilding community sort of, created it to be. And I think it wasn't intentional. And if you talk to anyone in the fitness industry, they'll tell you that creatine alone doesn't give you the huge jacked, tiny tank top body. There's a lot of work that goes into those physiques, but we did take the wellness approach. So we knew that we were going to have to get in front of these people, and going out to, going to yoga studios or, YMCAs or gyms and trying to find these people. It's hard to cover a lot of ground in a short matter of time. We let Google do a lot of the work for us. We did not hop on Facebook. We didn't start running Facebook ads for a long time. We let Google sort of help us identify those people online with search campaigns, shopping campaigns. We were identifying our brand or using keywords that were very similar to other supplements in the wellness industry, because we knew that those were the people we wanted to focus on early on, and that people that were in the fitness industry already taking creatine, we were going to populate in those searches either way. We were having the not so active approach on the fitness side of things that coincidentally was more reared in the wellness side of things with the branding. So Google got us our first 10,000 customers. I'd like to think.
Whoa.
Yeah, and learning Google Ads was a feat in itself. Having not knowing any digital advertising or having the background, I didn't mentor or didn't intern at an agency like some people do earlier on to sort of learn the ropes. I've done my 10,000 hours. I'd like to think I'm somewhat of a ninja when it comes to Google. Maybe not Facebook yet, but Google. Google's a lot smarter than we think. I know that there's a story out there where they knew a girl was pregnant before she did, and they were already trying to sell her, infant and toddler or infant, I think formula or medicine or something, and she had no idea what was going on. And later, a week later, found out she was pregnant. So Google knows your audience maybe better than you do, or at least where they live and their credit card information.
And with Google Ads, it sounds like you taught yourself and then figured it out, were successful at it, enough so to launch this business. Where do you think people go wrong when they first get into Google Ads? Yeah,
I think they don't take the scientific approach, because there's a lot of gurus online, and there's a lot of good information everywhere. And getting on YouTube and finding those 2 or 3 people that are not trying to get you to, sign up for a course. Maybe they are, much later down the road, but that's definitely not in the, during the ad breaks of their videos. You're not getting retargeted with that sort of stuff. But finding the right people to dedicate your time to listen to, and you need to get to know these individuals. Anyone that has an online presence and you're not able to directly speak with them, or you're not able to at least attempt a master class with them or something along the lines of that, I would say there's a good chance that, it's a product that they're building and they're more interested in maybe selling it than taking time out of their day to educate people. And you really want to be able to discern between the two. Who are the people that are actively helping entrepreneurs and business owners learn this trade? Who are the people that are maybe overly concerned with turning a profit on the material that they put out? More often than not, that material is, you're not being inundated with the things that you really need to be inundated. There's a lot of there's more of a volume play there with their own material. So they're just trying to get as much stuff in front of you as possible to create the most content, as solidified and concentrated. And, there's a lot of noise baked into all that. You just got to find the right people.
So who are your favorite Google Ads gurus?
There's two that I would consider, I'd put them up against anyone, anywhere. And that's John and Cossum of Solutions 8. Those guys are probably doing the most on YouTube. I know that they have, they've got one other really big competitor in the space, and I see their ads all the time because I've been on Solutions 8 YouTube so much. But there's only a couple on there, and Solutions 8, John and Cossum, I've watched those guys give so much to their community. They've invested so much time and energy into the people that genuinely want to grow their businesses, learn the ropes, and they're more than willing to take it off your hands for you. And they're very reasonably priced for the job that they do and the results that they yield for these people. But most importantly, they're available. They have lives, the YouTube live. I think they charge a subscription now. It's like $5 a month, worth its weight in gold. If you need any questions answered, I have an hour-long live. It'll go 2 hours. If the Q&A, they'll let the Q&A dictate the length. But those guys are a wealth of knowledge, and they've together. Like I mentioned earlier, I'd put them against anyone on the planet when it comes to Google Ads.
And so, Solutions 8 YouTube channel. So I linked to that in the show notes.
Amazing.
Circling back to the beginning, did your SpaceX experience prepare you for any of your entrepreneurial adventure?
Absolutely. Contrary to, I guess, a lot of people's beliefs, there's a lot of similarities in those respective fields, working at SpaceX and then being an entrepreneur. I think the most consistency is seen in the 60 to 70 hour work weeks. So, coming out of the military, I was used to embracing the suck and working the weekends and doing the long hours, and then transitioning into SpaceX. It didn't get any easier. It got longer. It got harder. It took a lot more, brain energy to do that work. And it really built a different kind of mental endurance. I mean, I was building rockets at the end of the day. Fast forward a year or 3 years, I was making gummies. They're completely different things. They were both very physical. When I say I was building the rockets, like I had hands on, there were days when I was one of the bigger guys at the time. I used to have about 20, 25 pounds more muscle than I do now. If they need it, so you're on the production floor, they're literally doing things for the first time. When things get broken or stuck, or they need something pulled out of something, they call me over, and I go out there and put 110% into pulling a piece of a rocket out of a bigger piece of the rocket. And it was a lot of sweat and a lot of sweat equity and a lot of mental endurance that went into that work. And that's the exact same thing you see in entrepreneurship. People working 60, 70 hours a week, breaking through mental barriers on a daily basis. I remember being that kid in college that couldn't study for more than 2 or 3 hours before literally having almost a migraine. I'll work for 17 hours a day, and I'll only stop because I have to go to sleep, and I better than to get sick. Mm-hmm.
So you have a lot of, sounds like you have a lot of skills you taught yourself to be able to do this. And that's something that's important to you. What do you think are some of the must-know how-to skills that entrepreneurs need to have when they're trying to build these e-commerce businesses?
Yeah, the must-knows. So yeah, like you mentioned, I didn't have a background in web development or graphic design or digital advertising or the confectionery trade. I think the theme there is the skill is really to just be willing to do the work. Someone that has investors or comes from money or has a large nest egg, you're going to have to find out how to maximum output from the bare minimum input. And a lot of the time, by bare minimum input, I mean, the investment, the money. So you're going to have to do a lot of the work. And I think the real skills that just come or help you succeed in that sense is the willingness to do so, having the mental endurance, being able to kind of leave your ego at the door when you maybe think you're on the right track and a door gets slammed in your face and you kind of want to refuse to believe that, you've put so much time and energy into something that made no improvements on your business, but you need to go back and you need to, relearn the way you were doing things and being able to set your ego aside and that willingness to learn. That's what's really going to propel you forward and keep you moving through the upsets.
Fabulous advice. That's probably going to end up being the promo clip for this episode. So looking to the future then, what's next for Bear Balance? Bear Balanced.
Oh, there you go. We tried to get that IP earlier on. It didn't exist. So moving forward, the future, we're looking forward to it. This year is going to be an exciting year. I can't say exactly what we're doing, but we've got some exciting stuff planned. We're finally rolling out into retailers. We've been in mom and pops, pretty much since we first started. They found us one way or another. But we've been having a lot of conversations with wide range of larger retail, big box chains, and we're looking to be first creatine product in a lot of these, legacy grocers, natural grocers. We're going to be everywhere all at once. That's sort of, I think the main thing to take away from all of this.
Again, on store shelves, but that's its own adventure and new series of issues.
Very much so. Yeah, but we're ready.
So if someone wanted to check out these famous world's first creatine gummies themselves, where would they go?
They would go to www.bearbalanced. That's bear as in the animal, balanced, past tense with a D.com. You'll know you're there if you enter the URL correctly once it loads, believe me. We have Instagram as well. All of our socials, Bear Balance, you'll be able to find us. And if you happen to do a Google search, Bear Balance or Creatine Gummies, we are on those first page of Google search results. There's no way to miss us.
Excellent. We'll check it out. And got links in the show notes to everything you mentioned. Dylan Menter, Bear Balanced. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kurt.